Yes, okay. Okay, everybody, it's 4:31, we're calling the meeting to order. Pam, please note, Dr. Brown, Ms. Robles, myself, Ms. Haggerty, Lawson, Mr. Oxer, and Ms. Solis. Ms. Nakira will not be attending. Item 3, public comment. We have, I believe Mr. James. Mr. James? Oh, Mr. James? Please.
I'm Frank James with FTJ Construction, and I just wanted to reiterate what I said a couple of weeks ago, since the same issues brought up, that I think the evaluation was a little on the flawed side in order to, rate an out-of-towner who's never done any work in El Paso, has no connections with El Paso, so much better than local contractors. I mean, obviously I'm prejudiced and I'd like to get the job, but, at the same time, looking at it, I was just concerned with what was there. I've been a contractor in El Paso for 36 years. I was born here, raised here, have a degree from UTEP. One advantage is working with a local contractor as opposed to an out-of-town contractor, because our main office is here, the principals are here. You'll be dealing with the principals of the corporation, not, some of they send from Oklahoma City to be here, no matter how good the other company is. We also pay taxes, and we employ construction people that the community college trains. I mean, I guarantee you, if this was reversed and we were trying to get a job in Oklahoma City, that we would not be given any preferential treatment in Oklahoma City. And I'm not sure why El Paso wants to give preferential treatment to out-of-town contractors. And again, I'd like to ask you to reconsider that you want to award this to Flint. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. James. Anyone else here to speak under public comment? Go ahead. Absolutely, Mr. Chair.
Adam Pacheco with the El Paso Association of Contractors. I'd like to just reiterate what Mr. James said. I'd like to just stress on the fact that you are going to be dealing, if you report the job to FT James or any other local contractor, you will be dealing with the owners, the principals of those businesses. I think that goes beyond saying that it's valuable to the community college on projects like this. The past meeting, it was said subcontractors are not going to be brought from out of town as well. Like I said, it wouldn't be without said that local subcontractors could do this job as well. You're going to, like I said, you're going to be working with people here locally, local taxpayers that will support community college in future bond projects or anything you guys go out for. We're here to support you all, and we hope that you will consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, please. With that, item 4. Yes, sir.
Mr. Farrell, we do have a representative from the recommended vendor. I'm not sure what the right time is for him to address.
He's welcome to speak now or after the item is heard.
I'd love to address some of the comments.
Sure. Yeah, I think it'd be appropriate now.
Yeah,
That
it's
he's
fresh,
just,
it's fresh. So, thank you guys for having me. I'm Joe Stroby. I'm the general manager for Flinko in our Southwest region. Just a little quick backstory. We are a regional contractor. We have 8 offices across the country. And Flinko is a 110-year-old company. Originally, up until 2012, we were an Oklahoma contractor. Out of Tulsa, though, not Oklahoma City. In 2012, we were acquired by another contractor, Alvarisi, because Flinko was a 3-generational owned company. The 3rd generation had to pass it down to, they put it up for sale, and we've been in Alvarisi have, so with that being said, we're not headquartered in Tulsa anymore. St. Louis, Missouri is our holding company's headquarters. But we have two large Texas offices, Austin and Houston, and we do a substantial amount of work in West Texas too, that serve between our Austin unit and our Albuquerque office as well. So this was a pursuit between our Albuquerque office and our Austin office, with Austin leading the charge. All of our C-suite people, CEO, FO, AO, all the large decision makers, division presidents, they reside in Austin. So that is now, since the acquisition, is what we consider headquarters is Austin, Texas. I'd like to say that to Mr. James's comment along the fact that the criteria maybe scores towards out-of-state contractors a little bit of preference. You know, if that was the case, then an out-of-state contractor would have had a parking garage job a couple jobs ago. That's not the case. That went to an El Paso contractor. So I think the criteria swings either way depending on the submission from what I'm seeing. And to the gentleman who's representing, you're not representing ABC or AGC, are you? El Paso.
Association contract.
Okay. I can tell you that I've got a list right here. Our subcontractor volume on this job, dollar-wise, we are going to have 86% of the subcontractors coming out of El Paso.
Can you repeat that, please?
86% of subcontractors dollars under Flinco will be with El Paso subcontractors.
And that's part of the agreement contract, or is that just a gentleman's?
That's just how they proposed how they submitted their proposal.
Okay.
Now, our mechanical, electrical tradesmen, 86% of those dollars are coming from El Paso contractors. So, unless anyone has any questions for me, that's all I have.
How long is the warranty?
We have a 2-year warranty. We've never had a bonding company come finish one of our jobs. Our single aggregate bonding capacity is anywhere between 250 and 300 million. So, financially speaking, we're very confident that we can knock this one out of the park.
And how many days did you propose to
Completed
complete the project?
425 days. I think we were the only contractor that proposed beating the proposed schedule, actually.
Okay, I think, thank you very much.
All right, thank you guys.
Mr. Betts?
We spent a couple weeks inside, in here, and so there's been a few things that happened since then. I'll hold on up, but I'll give you an update in each project to begin. On Trans Mountain, we're going very quickly. The underground planning is 96% complete. The electrical is 70% complete. The crew's actually trying to make up some of this lost time they're working after they Saturdays.
Is that costing us more?
Sir? No, sir. No, sir.
That's
So-
part of coming
On time.
on
Yeah.
On time.
There's
under
no
budget and
time
ahead of
to do, yes.
schedule.
Ahead of schedule. I don't know about the budget, but ahead of schedule for sure.
Exactly. And so the goal actually to pour the first half of the slab will be by a week from this past Tuesday. So, a week for yeah. So it's coming up very quickly. So I'm glad to report that this project is going very well, very smooth since we restarted it. Via Air TTC, we're pretty much done with all the spot footings, getting very close on the classroom building and diesel building, the automotive building. The excavation and the plumbing thing is complete for the liner pit, and also excavation also complete for the other liner pit for the diesel building. North retaining wall is at about 80%. This one is going very quickly as well, and as you can tell, this is a picture from the webcam. As you can tell, they're moving pretty quickly. We're about to get off the ground. Next project, before actually, it's not a next project. I mean, this is part of the Via TTC. If you recall, back on March 29th, we had a meeting to discuss the change of the entrance. And if you recall, that's changing from this one here to this entrance here. And when I approached you, this is what you all approved, to make relevant changes to scope of the Vibrant Transportation Center, including necessary budget revisions. That being said, I understand the approval, but the numbers came up considerably higher. So I want you to I felt compelled to bring it back to the board just to make you all aware. I still think we're fine. But let me show you what, on March 29th, this is basically what I told you. The award came at $304,169 under budget.
Right.
Back then, I told you that the estimate rough order of magnitude was $154,000, including a 10% contingency and the architectural fees. That now is at $226,000 to $211,754 from the contractor and $14,900 from the architect. Which back then I told you we'd have a net savings $150,000. Now we have a net savings $77,000. So we're still fine, and we still have the 30-day delay. I estimated at 30 days, and that's short enough. That's what it was. We're still fine. Particularly, the main reason about this, if you recall, the estimate was based on the schematic design drawing, just basically on the picture. When we pay for the architects to go further and develop the working drawings, then obviously there was more detail involved. And the price of materials in the meantime go a little higher. We are more off than we'd like to be, but it's still, the budget can certainly absorb it.
Do they have do architects have an hourly rate, or they have?
Typically, their proposals are on the not to exceed, on additional services. On additional services, their proposals, they said, well, we estimate how many hours. They actually, I believe their proposed 14.9 at the time, which is right about what they said it was going to be. So as far as their time drawing, we're okay. I mean, he was pretty close. Where we really went off was an actual estimate. That's where we went off.
Materials estimates, you said?
Materials, but I honestly think the biggest issue was that we didn't have the whole thing detailed. And once we start actually putting detail onto it, you just start bringing the cost up. And again, I feel like we already had the permission, but I really didn't feel right approving this change order without bringing you all up to date and make sure you all don't have buyer's remorse. In other words, make sure you're still okay with me doing that.
But we
So-
say we're okay today, and then it stops. Then we still, no more going up, or will the still costs go up once until we start actually building it?
No. This is just for that one
Yeah,
change
no,
order.
I know.
So we still have little change orders here and there, but all small. This is the big one, and anything over $50,000 really needs to be approved by the board.
But that's
So-
why you have that budget anyway.
Yes, ma'am, yeah. But the main thing is that I just felt it was such a big, it's 67% more. It's quite a bit more. So I really felt I should bring it to you all. But again, I want to assure you that we're still okay, the budget's okay, we still have an excess on the savings. So unless y'all have an issue with it, I propose I approve it and we move on to getting this bill.
Does anybody have, I don't think it's an issue big enough for us to stop it. We agreed that we wanted that,
Yeah.
the facades.
Very good, thank you. Thank you. So now moving on to Vibrant Plastic Lab, this one's going great. They're going very fast. They actually worked through the 4th, they don't have to, but they did. Work through the 4th of July, they're working Saturdays. They're basically done with if you can tell by this picture here, they're basically done with over excavation.
They're really trying to press Dr. Graham. Really trying to press Dr. Graham.
No, this
And we just opened another school and it was on time.
Not ahead of schedule.
Yes.
We've been very pleased with the way this program. If anything, we're ahead of schedule.
On
And,
this
and
one?
this GeoPier now, this is a drilling machine here. I thought it was kind of good. I obviously didn't see this for the GeoPiers. If you recall, I kind of debriefed you all before what he was. The soil is so hard. Now we lost 1 or 2 days because the soil is so hard. They're going to have to change the shaft, the drill.
Wow.
And that's not a big deal. But that's why you see not much activity there on the webcam because they're waiting on getting that new drill and starting to get the GeoPiers. But this is going great. This is going really good.
I understand that you're gonna start the geopiers tomorrow.
Sir?
Plata says they're gonna start the geopiers tomorrow.
They already started.
They started. They had to stop. Rick, I don't know if you're aware of it or not. They had to stop because the soil was too hard, so they had to get another drill that's better. But it's a day or two.
Yeah, that's no problem, but
Yes,
how
sir.
long do you think, what's the schedule, when will it be complete?
Oh,
The schedule will be complete by Monday.
thank you.
Oh, okay, so just a couple of days.
Okay.
But powerful enough that we had to send out an email not to be worried about the vibrations.
Right. So this one is definitely going around. And now this is Rio Grande. We started. And I thought this was a great picture just to show you we have actually started on Rio Grande.
Now, is that the Queen Anne house?
Well, that one got on fire.
Wait, where are the protesters?
They're gonna run for the board.
See that rumbly there? But so we got started. They're going strong. We do have some coordination issues we got to do in Sun Metro, particularly when it comes to their bus stop. But we are certainly working hard on that, and we already have the first meeting scheduled for next week.
And the students are aware of the new parking
Yes, so
facilities?
Carrie has been, oh, there she is. Carrie's been doing an awesome job as keeping them informed, just very, very, and actually, Carrie's been doing an awesome job at informing the neighborhood. That's one thing that she's been doing that. So I think, of course, we just started, but knock on wood, it's going good so far. I haven't heard anything negative yet, Carrie, have you?
We'll have ongoing, another email went out district-wide, so individuals who are not just at Rio Grande, but others who might be visiting campus, we're regularly informing Sunset Heights, and will continue to do so as updates are available. By the semester starting, we'll also have some posters and other informational items on campus for individuals who may not be able to access the web regularly. So we'll try to do our best to keep everyone informed.
Thank you, Carrie. Does anybody know when the trolley is gonna start running on Oregon?
I think you're right, I mean, the run, they did the night, they do the
But I thought it
night
was
test runs.
2018.
I'm sorry? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. But there was a test run of a couple of cars, that's all we know.
Yeah.
But I heard it was just downtown with the test runs.
That was just,
Okay.
but Carrie might have some, she's raising her hand.
The latest
sorry.
that I heard from Sun Metro is November of 2018. They'll start running if all the test runs go, and we're also working with Sun Metro to do a promotional campaign with our faculty and students to let them know about the safety issues of the trolley around campus, so we can make sure the students are safe there. And we'll keep everyone posted if there's any changes, but that was the latest information.
And just don't ride your bike along Stanford.
Anything coming in, get out of the way.
This is great, thank you.
Great, thank you, Carrie. So, and now Northwest, we've actually contacted STAC contractors. Basically, we tentatively schedule about a week to come up with some VE items. If we have some good VE items, we'll probably try to capture that before we sign a contract. Yes, sir?
Real slow again. What is VE?
Oh, Valley Engineering, I apologize. No, that's my fault, I should have told you. Valley Engineering. And so we should, if there's anything worthwhile, quite a considerable amount, then we'll probably handle that before we sign the contract. But we gave them a deadline of a week from Tuesday this Tuesday.
A week from this Tuesday, yeah.
This Tuesday, yeah. This Tuesday to come up with some Valley Engineering ideas. And right after that, we should be able to get the contract going, and after that.
And we'll still make the time schedule?
We slid it about, if you look in here, we slid about a month roughly. So, but it should be still no problem opening the fall, which is.
Well, they could work through the Thanksgiving holidays.
I'm not going to commit them just yet to that. But anyway, so the groundbreaking schedule for August 30th, so everybody's welcome to attend. Yes, sir. Did you have a question, Joe? Oh, I'm sorry. I saw you looking.
It's not his area.
He's thinking.
He's thinking. Okay. Mission del Paso, of course, will.
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Are we recording, I'm assuming recording the furniture and all the
These are
equipment?
turnkey.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But somebody's working on
Equipment,
that now.
computers.
Is that easier
working.
also? Oh,
Yeah, we're handling all that signage, all of that.
I know.
It should be a turnkey project where basically the users come in.
No. What do you mean should be?
It will be. I will definitely guarantee with Mel's backing.
Jan looks nervous now.
I'd just like to say that.
Here we go, here we go.
No, it's ECM, but it's also staff.
It's our staff.
Definitely,
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
work on a weekly basis with Rick and Ruben, Rick and Ruben, we say. And we're making a lot of decisions together, and we're bringing all the parties in, required, and we're identifying potential gaps, and we're correcting them, and we're moving forward together. So it's
Yeah,
not
we're
really
all
just
under the
ECM.
impression that it is turnkey, and so.
But it's gonna look nice, right?
Yes.
Classy.
Oh, it'll be amazing. That I can guarantee.
Much better than Socorro, right?
Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Thanks, Mel. And the groundbreaking ceremony is approaching July 25th. Now, while we're talking about this, one of the things that was talked about at the last meeting was the local participation. So we decided, well, let's go actually through all the budget, not just construction. Let's go with architects, commissioning agents, geotechnical, materials testing, all that, and let's see how we're doing from a program perspective, how we're doing. So we did, and I'm not going to bore you with all these details, but trust me, all these are very accurate. We went through every single project.
Is there a copy of that in our backup?
Yes.
Yes.
Sir. Through all, actually, that's a good point, because you could always go back if you had any questions on a particular project. So, and we actually went through all the projects and compiled all the information for all projects. And the totals we came up to was basically, when it comes to construction only, construction contracts, we have 88% participation, local participation. In other words, 88% of the dollars go to locals. And when it comes to projects, it's even better. So the project information, in addition, if you recall, there's the construction museum, there's materials testing, the architects, all that. When you take those into consideration, 89% goes to local firms. So I think this pretty much establishes that overall, the contribution to the local community from El Paso Community College is certainly very, very strong. And when you're talking about millions, talking about almost $110 million into the local economy.
And I think that's something that was very important for this board. So,
Yes.
thank
See,
you.
I got that sense from the last meeting, that's why we thought.
Not the very first meeting when we met
Not
with
the
you?
very first
Oh.
Well, yeah, the first meeting,
For the
but
first meeting, we
absolutely.
impressed upon you, we
Yes.
wanted the local
Yes.
contractors.
A local
Strongly
presence,
considered.
yeah,
From
exactly.
the beginning, you've been saying this.
What
You were
is,
not here in the first.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's
you're
right,
true.
you were
Oh,
there.
yeah, sorry. That's
Yeah.
true. Sorry, I take it.
He gets it.
so the 11% or what?
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
Okay, let's go back, for example, actually, I thought
Right.
that I'll just give you an example.
Yes.
Let's take, for example, Viavid. We have under construction, Viavid, actually, I think that, don't go Viavid here, because it's a little better, there's more out of town in here. So in Viavid in construction, you have 60 million to the local economy, but 8 million is because, first of all, is HB. So their profit, overhead and profit, all goes to out of town. Then they have some out-of-town subs. All that money goes out of town. So this is probably the worst case, and that's why I want to point it out to you. That, like in this case, 8 million that goes. Like our architect, they have the Smith Group, which is out of Tucson or Phoenix. I'm sorry, Phoenix. I think it was Arizona somewhere. It's Phoenix. So they get their fee is 45% of the total fee. So there's quite a bit of dollars they go out of town for the architect himself. And then if you look miscellaneous owners, for example, the commissioning company that got this project is from out of town. They're from Atlanta, Georgia, I believe. But they're from out of town. So those dollars have to be allocated. And so this is just an example of how we literally, this is very thorough. And where I think this will help a lot is at the end of the bond, we could actually, this is a live document, so we can actually update it with actual amounts, because in some of these I can tell estimated, for example, contingency I'm saying 100%, there's no guarantee that there will be some that will, but we can update that. So at the end of the bond, we can go in and get the actual contract amounts where it says estimated, where it does, and even the actual might change, because if there's change orders, there's contract amounts that change. But we'll be able to keep track of that, and at the end, we can actually give you all the final numbers. in that. So hopefully you'll find this helpful and clear. Yes, sir.
And just a clarification on the AE, because I saw a couple of puzzled faces. So the architect was, the prime architect was Jorge Mora.
Right,
Gonzalez Mora.
But he's
Associates. Local, but he subcontracted about 45% of the work. So the work that Paulo did was, it was pretty significant in the sense of going into the subcontracts of people and the commitments. And so he went a little deeper. So we could have used more favorable numbers and say, you know, Jorge Mora is local and 100%, but we knew that he had a local an out-of-town subcontractor. And so we try to be as accurate as possible.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because we really try to be transparent. Case in point, if you don't mind me adding, we ourselves, we have AECom as a part of our contract. And so as you can tell, on these, I actually went through and figured out how much AECom was charging. And so this is as transparent as it possibly can, because hopefully you'll use this in the upcoming bond. That if there's a misconception that those dollars are not being used in El Paso, is simply not true. And this proves it. So moving on to the action item, which is Mission El Paso. So the numbers came in, Ventex was disqualified for irregularity. So another thing that is, the current low offer was FT James, and by the selection committee, the determined best value was for Flintco. This is the amount, so even if you take the recommended alternates as per the committee has recommended that we accept alternates 1 through 5. Even if you take those, and they're considerable amount alternates, we'd still be under budget, which is outstanding in my mind. I think it's just great news. So I'd like to go through the alternates so you can see what the alternates were, and so you can understand why the committee recommended we accepted it. The first one was this terrace. Here's the building. This is the profile of the building here, and this where you see columns are arcades and arcades. And above this area here, there's a terrace, and I'll show you right now what I mean. So this area here, it's an arcade. These stay in the base bid. These will stay, the base proposal, I'm sorry, base proposal. And this one is a terrace here, and you get also obviously an arcade below. The big advantage of this was 270, 216, so it's not necessarily cheap, but it's in our mind, in the committee's mind, it's a great asset for the building, particularly because the building is a considerable distance from the other buildings. So the students have a dire need for some shade areas outside. This is facing east, so it's great lighting, it's not harsh lighting. And in our mind, just completing this arcade, so we go all along here in the shade, I would certainly think it's well worth it.
And that was a concern that Dr. Villalobos brought up when we chose this site, correct? The walkway, the walking to.
Yeah, the walking to the pre-existing campus, so it's going to be difficult for students to be back and forth, so if they can spend as much time in this building as possible, studying, eating their food like they do in our current campus, that would be the best.
Absolutely. So this would be the one alternate. The second alternate, which I think is a great asset as well, and that's part of the reason why the committee recommended that option, is again, it's not cheap, but the asset is tremendous because what it does, it brings in natural lighting. This is the lobby area. It's a 2-story space volume. And by creating this clerestory here, it brings, let me show you the next picture. It brings all the lighting, indirect lighting, which is great. You don't want that harsh lighting. So it gives you indirect lighting into this 2-story space, which is great from the standpoint of getting just daylight in the interiors, but also provides a much more pleasant space, at least in my opinion. And during daylight, you probably minimal lighting. So the committee felt as well that this would be a great option, and since we can afford it, it was recommended. The next alternate was the vinyl tile. That one, it was clear that this kind of tile, it's a nicer tile, it's a luxury tile, the alternate. But it was clear to all of us, including the committee, that it doesn't go well with the maintenance program that the college has ongoing now, and we wouldn't be able to catch our savings in terms of maintenance. So basically, we didn't see a need to spend $75,000 on this, and everybody was pretty much in consensus that that was a good decision. The same can be said for these fur downs. What the architect did, which is very interesting aesthetically and is well worth it, is these are fur downs, and these we do have in the base bid as part of the common areas and the conference rooms. But the architect took it a step further and put them in the offices and classrooms. And everybody felt that was a little too much overkill. I mean, we want to keep the common areas, the open areas, public areas, absolutely more attractive. Conference rooms, yes. But there was a little too much to do in classrooms and office, particularly when you're talking about a $100,000 tag. You know, so that didn't make much sense for the committee to do that. So that was rejected as well. This one is absolutely required. The AV. As you all recall, we moved all that into construction. It's well within our budget. It's fantastic. It's almost a match to what the architect has estimated. So we didn't even have to worry about a markup for the contractor on this, because if you compare it to the number we have in the budget for AV, it's very, actually I think it's slightly in. So that being said, this one is required. We had to have. So when all of that is said and done, we're 0.77 under budget. And we can have all these nice things. So
It's music to Dr. Grimm's ears.
So and here's the action item.
And Ms. Shaughnessy.
So we do need a motion on this one?
Yes.
I make a motion that we direct the president to authorize CCM and EPCC staff to begin negotiations and execute a contract with Flimco LLC for construction services.
Ms. Rose?
Do we need to add to which campus or no?
No.
Or it's evident?
No,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Motion passes. Now, I would make a recommendation to Mr. Garrido and his team that maybe we could provide a workshop to address the concerns that we've heard today, and I think Mr. Pacheco had in one other time. So when they come and they work with us and fill out their proposals, that we address their concerns up front, we address the workshop as far as what we expect or what your team is expecting to present to the committee. We can ask them, for the items that need to be included in the proposal, what you're looking for, and maybe we won't run into this type of situation in the future.
With pleasure.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Mr. Gallardo, do you do any kind of preliminary meetings or trainings or sessions with people before you put the proposals
We
out?
do a pre-proposal conference.
And you invite the people that have expressed interest?
It's advertised in the newspaper, so if folks know to pick up the CSP, in that same ad that tells them where to pick it up and how to pick it up, it says there's a pre-proposal conference on such and such a date at such place.
And do you track to see, do you have like a signature sheet to see who attends?
We do. And I said this at the last 2 or 3, and so did Rick Lobato and so did David Rawlings, because we're all there. A lot of people send their runners or other people who don't fill out these proposals, and so we warn them, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Do this instead, pay attention to this, tell us about as much about your company, sell your company to us, because evaluators are sitting in this room, and they're not necessarily experts in the construction business. So sell yourself through the proposal. And if you're not the owner, if you're not the person who's filling these proposals out, please take this information back to the owner. And we get the same offers, the same mistakes, the same issues. So what Mr. Fierro just suggested, having a workshop, inviting all the contractors, maybe through your organization, sir, And maybe, I think there's another organization that expressed an interest a couple of months ago, maybe through his organization, but as well advertise it in the Times. Just invite everybody and sort of just let them know what people look for. What I don't score. People score these individually. A lot of people think that people sit there and decide, let's give this a 6. No, everybody scores individually, and then we take the individual scores. Everybody's in the same room. We take the individual scores, and then we go back to our office and compile them to the scores that you see here. People don't necessarily share their comments. They're just reading the proposals. They're looking at the references. But I sometimes hear 1 or 2 comments saying, boy, look, this person, their proposal says Isleta ISD, and we're not Isleta ISD, we're EPCC. Or they forgot to include the chart, the Gantt chart that tells us how the progress is going to go. We asked for that. David Rawlings showed us how to ask for it, what to ask for, and half the time we don't get that. So I do hear the comments like, boy, you know, these 3 companies did follow the instructions. There's no chart. Or they didn't tell us about the superintendent, what his background is. Or they didn't include a copy of their safety information. All of these things we look for, and this is how we score. We tell everybody how we're going to score them ahead of time. We tell them on the CSP, whatever they download, that tells them it's due at 3 o'clock on a Friday or what have you. It says, this is how you're going to be graded. But a lot of times people just give us the very the basics, just the price, for example. And you compare that to somebody who told us all of everything that we asked for. Well, it's
So
that
let's
influences
look
the
at going
decisions.
beyond just sharing some of that information, because you can set up all kinds of sessions, but if people are not showing up, there has to be a different way of approaching it. Is it possible, and I don't know this, I'm setting on the ratings of proposals, not here at EPCC, but where I work. But is it possible that it's a requirement that people attend, or is that not allowed?
I've talked to both legal counsels on mandatory meetings, and I didn't get a very comfortable feeling that they're very comfortable mandating that they attend a training before they submit a proposal.
Only because, you know, many times your architect or they're not the person that wrote the whole thing, you know, so if they send a runner, but they're not the ones that are gonna put it together, it's a disadvantage. And we don't want people excluded because they don't know what else they needed to do. I don't know if you can figure out another way to get people to come in. Can they be given extra points if they attend, or that's not allowed either? No?
That would really blur things.
Yeah, we're blurred enough.
The problem with mandating something is then you might get somebody that says, I submitted my proposal, the law says that I submitted it according to the way you asked, but I couldn't attend. So are you gonna throw away my proposal?
Yeah, that's true.
So
Well, maybe you can figure out
what I'd like to do is maybe take Mr. Vera's suggestion and have maybe 2 a year for people that couldn't attend one. Maybe start spreading the word that way.
Yeah, because we're gonna keep on doing more work, and we certainly don't want people getting excluded or feeling that they got excluded. If there's something that we can do as a college to better help them prepare the proposals.
Definitely do that.
Okay. I know we have executive. Is there any unfinished business?
We are getting ready to celebrate our 50th, to begin the year of our 50th anniversary. So this is a memo from Carrie to the board with regards to business cards. We would like you to select the respective business card that you'd like to have so that we can continue. All of these events will begin in 2019 as we celebrate our 50th anniversary. So we will hand these out to the board, get these back to Pam or myself, and we'll get them to Carrie and order these up for you. Carrie, is there anything else that you want me to mention?
That's it. We hope to see everybody on the groundbreaking permission on the 25th.
We're not keeping this. Carrie, I was curious.
The chair wants both.
The purple.
Believe it or not, purple is one of our colors.
Oh, it is?
Apparently, the board added that
Yes.
when the baseball team was.
It must have been when they burned down the building in Bryan.
That's our team.
Okay, it is 5:12, quick 5-minute break, so everybody can turn off the equipment, go to executive, and we start.
Okay, the time is 5:18 PM, and the board is reconvened in executive, in normal session, and will now go into executive session. The Board of Trustees may conduct an executive or closed session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code for one or more of the following reasons: consultation with its attorney to seek or receive legal advice, or consultation regarding pending or contemplated litigation, or for any purpose authorized by law, discussion about a prospective gift or donation, consideration of specific personnel matters, discussion about security personnel or devices, or discussion of certain economic development matters. The board may also announce it will go into executive session on any item listed on this agenda if the subject matter is permitted for a closed session by provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. Any vote regarding these items shall be taken in open session.
Thank you, Pamela.
Time is now 5:19 PM. The time is 6:07 PM. The Board of Trustees are reconvened in regular session.
Good job, Ruben.
Thank you, Mr. Gao. Who's moving to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr.
Sorry, Ms. Solis, I have to give her all my attention.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You seconded it,
Thank you
Mr.
all
Haggerty?
very much. Get better.
Mr. Haggerty?
I will.
You
I thought
seconded
you were